In today's video, I discuss why proteins and fats cause digestive issues in some when you eat them in higher amounts. Roll the titles.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. As always, just a quick reminder that I'm now offering the SIBO organic acid stool tests and consult via my website. So if you have any health or digestive problems, then consider taking these tests, as they will provide a lot of very detailed information upon which you can start making informed decisions and then start getting your health back on track. And on that bombshell, to the video. So as you can see here is a diagram of your stomach and digestive system. So obviously right at the top you have the stomach, and in the stomach this is where protein digestion typically occurs. So what exactly does this mean for the average person when you load up on higher amounts of proteins and fats? So when you eat high amounts of proteins or fats, your body will produce more hydrochloric acid, and it's this hydrochloric acid production that will stimulate the production of certain digestive enzymes that will kickstart your digestive process. So once the hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes go to town on the proteins and fats and food in your stomach, the acid chyme is released into your small intestines. So the acidic chyme is just fancy science jargon for a semi-fluid mass of partly digested food that is expelled by the stomach, and this chyme typically has a pH of around 2. So while the acidic chyme is hitting your small intestines, your gallbladder and pancreas will release bile and also pancreatic enzymes such as lipase and trypsin. And this release of bile salts will trigger fat breakdown in the small intestines, as well as some protein breakdown as the pancreatic enzymes are released. So just as a quick recap, you get predominantly protein digestion in the stomach and a mixture of protein and fat digestion in your small intestines. Now your small intestines consists of 3 parts. The duodenum connects to the stomach, the middle part is the jejunum, and the final part is the ileum that connects to the colon. So again, just to reiterate, the heavy lifting of your digestion of fats and proteins is done in the stomach and duodenum, and when this heavy lifting doesn't occur in the stomach and duodenum, it can cause a cascade of issues downstream in your digestive tract. So obviously by the time your food hits the ileum, most of the proteins and fats have been already broken down. The next step is where all of this material hits the colon, and this initial hitting of the colon is where typically your electrolytes and fluids get reuptaken, as well as some minerals. So again, just to recap, this is very important. In the stomach, you have predominantly protein digestion. In the small intestines, you have protein and fat digestion. And then in the colon, you are taking on electrolytes, minerals, and also fluids. Now, as you would expect, there are lots of potential issues that can occur if the proteins and fats aren't being digested correctly. So for example, in the stomach, if your protein isn't broken down correctly, then you can start running into reflux issues. So I do see a fairly high amount of people, particularly people who consume high amounts of protein powder, who aren't breaking down the proteins correctly, and then they start running into reflux issues. And similar issues can occur in the small intestines. So if your body isn't producing sufficient amounts of digestive and pancreatic enzymes, you are going to run into more putrefaction and rancidification. Rancidification are fats going bad, and putrefaction are proteins rotting. So if you aren't digesting proteins and fats correctly in the stomach and small intestines, you can get significant amounts of gas and bloating. People just assume that gas and bloating is just a carbohydrate issue, but often this is not the case. And of course, the valve between the small intestines and the colon is called the ileocecal valve. And if you have high amounts of putrefaction and rancidification of fats and proteins around the ileocecal valve, then the valve can become inflamed and then allow the migration of bacteria from the colon into the small intestines. This can obviously trigger lots of gas and bloating, and not only that, if there is a larger migration of bacteria from the colon into the small intestines, then you can start developing SIBO type of issues, and then the gas and bloating will go through the roof. Now, if we take this back to basics, the more protein and fats that you eat, the more stress you put on your digestive system, particularly if you are eating in very high amounts. So let me just explain this in another way. Hypothetically, if you have 5 cups of hydrochloric acid, this would be enough to digest 5 cups of proteins and fats. Now, if you start ramping up on protein powders, lots of proteins in your diet as well as lots of fats, so you can have 9 cups of proteins and fats, and still only have 5 cups of hydrochloric acid. And then by the time the stomach has produced sufficient amounts of hydrochloric acid, the fats and proteins will have hit the small intestines, where putrefaction, rancidification and gas and bloating can occur. And this whole cycle of insufficient digestion will obviously cause the increase of things like acid reflux. So everything is interconnected. So not enough stomach acid means undigested proteins and fats hitting the small intestines, and beyond this it will cause a cascade of effects. So more gas, more bloating and more digestive pain. Now there are various ways of testing to see where the issues are coming from. So the comprehensive stool test is good for looking at whether there is a pancreatic enzyme issue or whether there is any fat malabsorption issues. It can also tell you if there is any dysbiosis of bacteria or pathogenic bacteria that is causing issues with protein and fat metabolism. If there is lots of gas and bloating, then it may not just be a protein and fat issue. It could be bacterial problems in the small intestines causing the fermentation of fibre that then triggers high amounts of putrefaction and rancidification of the proteins and fats. So the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth test will tell you whether you have more methane or hydrogen in your gut. And as a very generalized rule, if you have lots of gas and flatulence, if you have foul smelling gas, then this will typically be methane issues. And if it's hydrogen, you will just have lots of gas without the foul smell. Other pathogenic and parasitic infections can also cause all manner of issues with protein and fat metabolism and be accompanied by digestive issues. So Citrobacter, Klebsiella and worms, etc. are some of the most common issues. And obviously the higher up the problem is with protein and fat digestion, the more there is a cascade effect through your digestive tract. So how do you resolve these types of issues? Well, first you need to get your macronutrients in line. So if you're eating higher amounts of proteins and fats and these are a real problem for you, then you need to dial these down until you've got your gut moving in the right direction. If these initial dietary modifications don't work, then you need to delve into testing and treat what you find. So if you have fat or protein malabsorption, then you deal with these. So if you have bacterial, yeast or parasitic issues at play, then you need to deal with these first before you can fix your protein and fat malabsorption issues. Now these type of problems can typically be worse for raw vegans because if there is longer term malabsorption issues at play, then the person is more likely to run into malabsorption and nutrient deficiencies. So for example, if you are not absorbing zinc correctly, then your body may struggle with producing hydrochloric acid as zinc is pivotal in producing this. And this can then trigger that digestive cascade. So my biggest takeaway from this video is don't let things snowball. So if you're having digestive issues, then don't leave it until you're passing a loss of blood before you reach out to a doctor, dietitian or nutritionist. So that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.